Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 121, Argument, 2F. Edward POV. Thrown into the dim-lighted, closed space instrument closet, Alex automatically made self-hug gestures as if she was a prey waiting for the predator to devour her. What makes you so mad? She asked warily as she tried to scour for the way out, but as I stood in the middle of the passage, she couldn't reach the door anymore. Why are you protecting yourself like that? I'm not going to molest you, I said with a face full of disbelief. Why? Because I have no boobs to. She retorted immediately and stopped halfway, face filled with embarrassment as she had revealed one of her insecurities. Don't worry. I'm sure they'll grow when you're older. No. I know that for sure. This isn't about all of that, and you know it, I said sternly as I glared at her. She shrunk back and gulped her saliva in fear as she studied my face. She pretended not to know and said, I don't understand what you want. It was all so sudden. I replied mockingly, was it though? Or was your ongoing behavior suddenly not tolerated anymore? I let the words sink in, and as she fell into contemplation, I added sarcastically, yeah, that's tough. I'm sure somebody out there feels sorry for you. It's not me. I'm here to beat some sense into you. I'll call the cops. They'll be too late if you do. So tell me, Alex, why are you avoiding me? I confronted her as I took one step ahead. She took one step backwards as she nervously lowered her head and brushed her stray hair behind her ears. The whole closet fell silent for a while as I waited for her answer. I'm sorry, Alex muttered, eyes full of tears. Can you let me go now, and don't find out why? I really don't want you to know about it. I was a bit taken aback, but then I shook my head. No, she said venomously as she held back her tears. Why? So you can film me? So that I'll just be one of your projects? Still no. The reason is actually very, very simple. I'm surprised you didn't see it, I replied casually, which made Alex taken aback a bit. Huh? She exclaimed, confused. I will just tell you. The reason I'm pulling you here, inside the room, is because I'm your friend, I replied with a smile. And besides, we only have 1 week left to spend with one another. After that, I had to wait a year before I could enjoy my school life with you again. Alex wiped her nose as she said meekly, really? You enjoyed being friends with me? Of course. Then that's all the more reason I couldn't tell you about it, she added. So, the reason you're so irritable and utterly insufferable had something to do with me? She rolled her eyes and said, don't pretend, Sherlock. Knowing you, you might actually have figured everything out. Otherwise, you won't pull me in here. No, I really don't know anything. I wasn't actually planning to until I had, but your words really hurt me, so I want to make you suffer a bit. Huh? What words? Alex said with her eyes darting everywhere, feeling a pang of guilt in her heart as she didn't mean to actually hurt me. It was only her self-defense mechanism that was acting out. Yes, when she said that I had a God-given talent before, the memory of my mother saying the same thing and leaving me forever surfaced inside my mind. The feeling was extremely uncomfortable, and I may have acted impulsively afterward. Not the time. We can revisit that after we settle this. Otherwise, for our last week together, we would be awkward with each other, being reserved instead of outgoing, always pulling ourselves back when having fun, and honestly, I don't want that to happen. That's why, I'm going to give you an ultimatum. No. Alex protested, but I ignored her and continued. I will give you as many chances as I can take a step forward before I will fully pin you at the end of the closet. Alex turned back to see it, and realized that she wouldn't have that many chances. So you would literally back me up against the wall? Alex said. Smart girl. I muttered with an unconscious seductive grin. Alex suddenly gasped and blushed a little before she shook her head and said, well, what will happen when we got to the end? I laughed and said, a massage. Her eyes widened, and her face paled. I continued in a teasing manner, your sister told me you extremely hated it when I massaged your palm before dash. No, I don't. Alex snapped suddenly, which confused me a bit. Alex's commentary. No, I really can't let him do that. What if I peed again? And this time, in front of him. If that happened, I will literally kill myself. Alex said in a horrified manner, but her cheeks had a little red tinge from her hidden expectation about the whole thing. The thoughts of him pinning her up at the wall, massaging a part of her body until she peed again, had caused Alex's sanity to be divided, and she had fallen into a dilemma at this moment. Alex fanned her cheeks as she said, I definitely can't let that happen. Commentary ends. I really don't want to do this. Alex said whiningly. Yet. You're still here. If you really want to go out, you can just use your 3 years judo training and fling me over, but you didn't. So, I guess there is a part of you that wants to work this out too. No one wants to prolong their own misery, or am I wrong? I asked with a sly grin as I took my first step. Also, you lost your first chance. Wait, Alex tried to buy some time, but I shook my head and instigated her, you called me someone with God-given talent. Why am I the target for your anger? No. It's not you dash. Then who? Is it your mother? I asked as I took another step. I didn't even reply yet? She retorted angrily. I am taking a step forward every 15 seconds. You really don't have much time, Alex. Are you sure you want to waste it with useless arguments? Ugh. Alex groaned loud and slightly raised her chin up to match her eyes to mine as I walked closer towards her. General POV. Outside the room, a few kids were pinning their ear to the storage room door, trying to figure out what was happening inside the room. Can you hear anything? Jenna asked Elsa with an anxious voice. No. I can hear the occasional raised voice, but I can't hear anything else. Elsa confessed. We need a glass cup. Enid said as she tried to make a medium with her hand, but failed. Enid. You aren't mad? Elsa asked carefully. I'm more inclined towards the feeling of concern in this situation. Why? Enid asked curiously. Jenna and Elsa shared a glacé with each other, and then they both looked at Enid again. Jenna asked, Isn't Alex your girlfriend? Aren't you mad at his dash? What? Enid interjected as she felt that she had heard something wrong. She picked her ears and asked, Can you repeat that again? Isn't Alex your girlfriend dash? What? Enid was flabbergasted once more, her brain short-circuited from the shock she was feeling. Jacob, Abraham, and Phineas, however, had no interest in what was happening beside them as they were focusing on the PS2. As Jacob and Phineas were playing a game against one another, a suspicious-looking blondie was peeking through the gaps of the music room door, trying to find out the whereabouts of her friend. Where is he? Taylor muttered. But then, a slender hand suddenly grabbed Taylor's shoulder, making her startled. She turned back quickly, and saw a stern-looking, beautiful teacher staring at her. You're not a student in the school, right? Can I see your visitor's pass? Mrs. Henderson asked with a stoic face. Well, I guess I'm exposed. Taylor said with a smile as she took off her sunglasses to show her face to the teacher. Expecting that she would be lenient with her, Taylor said, I'm just here to meet Dash. Do you have your visitor's pass? Mrs. Henderson asked again. Taylor was stumped and her brain short-circuited. It was quite a rare occasion for her to have someone ignore her reputation and treat her as an ordinary human, so her brain didn't know what to do at this moment as she was currently by herself. I don't understand. You need to register first before entering the school. Please come with me and sort this out, Mrs. Henderson said before she pulled Taylor to the teacher's office. As if she was turning into a student again, Taylor whined as she was dragged away. No. Edward POV. Although I could hear some chatter coming out from behind the door, I ignored them all and was giving all of my focus to Alex right now. As I took another step, she was flustered and shouted, "Okay. Stop. I'll tell you. It's because Because I mimicked her in trailing off. Because sigh, I don't know. I guess, my mother's reaction towards my achievement irked me dash. No, that's not it. I interjected. Alex was surprised and she said, and oh, that is it dash. Your mother told you from when you're still little that approval comes from within. Canon stuff. Also, despite the fact that your mom's reaction is repulsive, I don't think you actually care about her, right? You just need someone to dump all of the feelings toward, and she's an easy target. Besides, you hinted at the possibility of my involvement in the whole thing. So if you want to make a believable excuse, maybe include my name in your story. Shut up. Stop being right all the time. It's making me sick. Alex scowled hard before she shrunk backwards as I took another step ahead. Her back suddenly hits the end of the wall, which was a tuba rack and a marching drum rack. One of the drum sticks rolled to the edge of the rack, and knocked Alex in the head as it fell. Ow! She exclaimed as she rubbed her sore temple. One last step, I said, making her ignore the pain and glared at me instead. Before I could step on the ground, she said defensively, okay. It was my own issue. Are you satisfied now? I'm not until I hear the whole thing, I said with a smile as I patted her head. However, as I waited for Alex to continue, she kept her silence and was gripping the edge of her shirt while looking down on the floor, desperately wishing for her torture to be over. I sighed and stopped myself from blocking her exit and walked to her side instead with my back leaned against the wall. She peeked at my face, expecting that I would be mad at her, but instead, found me with a smile. You may find it difficult to tell me what you're feeling. I understand. It's uncomfortable being the only one put on the spot, especially when you don't like what you're feeling right now. So, I will take an example for a red-headed woman I know, and give you an out so that you won't feel terrible, alone. Which redhead? I don't think I know a redhead hanging out around you, Alex asked puzzledly. I rolled my eyes at her and said, 'Cause that's what's important right now. By the way, it's Lily Aldrin. From How I Met Your Mother? The sitcom. Alex exclaimed in disbelief. I nodded after chuckling a bit and took a deep breath. Alex also turned serious, and she glanced at my face as I spoke. Well, I struggle with the idea of how replaceable I am, to some people. To some people I am just a lesson, or a distant memory, or how we used to be, or a stranger turns into a lover, and now a stranger once more. I confessed without any lies in my words. I struggle with the idea of when I'm finally happy with life, life somehow takes that happiness away, and I'm alone again. I overthink, and it destroys me inside. Do you think that I am being unfair to those around me when I think like this? I asked her as we locked eyes. How long have you felt this way? Alex asked. For as long as I could remember, I replied. Alex shed a tear, and her chin quivered before she let out her very own insecurity. I threw away the competition medal. I widened my eyes, but I didn't say anything and let her continue. I feel like I don't deserve it. I didn't actually do anything at the competition. In the first match, you carried the whole team. At the final match, even though I had fought against the other team, it was useless, right? We're still going to win anyway since you have solved the golden snitch. Her voice cracked and she started sobbing. So what is the reason that I had to be happy about getting the medal? I had done nothing. And it's making me resent you a little, although I was the one who convinced you to join the team. I can't forget that fact, and every time I saw that medal, it was as if it was mocking me, telling me I am not good enough. You're dash. Stop. Don't try to cheer me up with fake words. It took you 2 months to win the state competition. I had worked for years. I give my everything in studying. But, how did you catch up to me? She gripped my shirt and asked me blamingly. She then realized what she had done, and then released me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean dash. It's okay. I said while patting her head gently. It's okay. Shut up. It's not. I don't know what to do. Alex said while wiping her tears and tried to cheer herself up again. Tell me what to do, she said as she looked into my eyes again. I smiled and said, to be honest, your logic is quite flawed. You were the one who contributed the most during the competition, and you didn't see that. Huh? How dash? First of all, you carried the team till the semifinal. Without your effort, the team won't even have a shot at the competition. There's also Sanjay Dash. Don't say that dummy's name. Also, you're the one who provided me with the most materials for the competition. Without it, even I will be struggling to answer the question. Yeah, right. Alex scoffed. It's true. My knowledge scope is very much limited to the sciences because of your urging. If you ask me about history, art, or even literature, I wouldn't know what to answer because I had never read up about those before, outside of the academic curricular scope. I said honestly. And there is something else you should know. What? She asked, intrigued. Well, you know that I always mention I have a good memory? I asked while scratching my cheek. She rolled her eyes and asked with a tiny smile breaking out on her face, are you changing your tactics to bragging? No. I am not. I replied with a laugh before I turned serious again. Keep this a secret? I said. She gave me her pinky finger, and I laughed at the childishness before I did the same thing and we pinky promised. I will. She shook our interlocked fingers up and down before sealing the deal. Then, I whispered to her about my eidetic memory. About how I could remember everything ever since I was 1 year old. Wait. That doesn't make sense. But sometimes you forget stuff. She asked with a confused face. Sometimes I just pretend to get over an awkward situation. Sometimes, it was late to pop out, so it seems like I don't remember during the beginning. I explained. And you're not wrong about the God-given talent. I do have one. But you're the one who carved the opportunity for me to use it. So part of the credit is on you. I said. She rolled her eyes but couldn't conceal the smile on her face. She tried to cover it up again and said, okay. I admit. Getting it all out feels much better now. I nodded with her and said, that's true. She then gave me a hug and said, thank you for not giving up trying. I'm not sensitive about this matter, so I cannot help you to solve your problem. But if you ever need to talk about something, you can come to me. And that's also a promise. She added as she released me. I smiled and wiped her teary eyes with my fingers and asked, do you still resent me now? Are you kidding me? You have an eidetic memory, but it's not like you're a full-blown genius. I can catch up to you. I really believe I could now that I know what I'm fighting against. The Pritchett's competitive gene is really strong, huh? Your grandpa and your mother will be proud of you. I joked. Alex POV. I don't have a tragic backstory. I didn't come from nothing. I came from a family that has loved me from day one and has been able to provide me with what I need. I have a roof over my head and food on the table. Sure, my parents were flawed, but who aren't? There are no excuses for me not to excel. There are no limitations. No walls I need to break down. Everything was within my reach, but I felt like there was chasm separating us. I am not a genius. I cannot make a groundbreaking discovery. I cannot suddenly have a moment of enlightenment when an apple falls onto my head and turns that into something that would etch my name into the world forever. When an apple fell onto my head, all I got was pain. Not a superstar. Not a magazine, quote, incredible human being. And I felt that I will never do anything. People with incredible backstories change the world. And I can't. However, as I stood inside the room and talked with Edward, he told me something. You know something wonderful about science? He asked. What? I asked. Science is compounding knowledge. Huh? Every mind-shattering knowledge, every awe-inspiring invention, every laborious calculation about the universe, none of it would even be here if it weren't for the efforts of the previous generations. Many of whom, their names had disappeared from the canals of history. But the proof that they lived still exists. How? I asked, my eyes shook from the anticipation. Every time someone opens their book and learns, they are carrying out the will of the previous generation, and within them is the possibility, a potential, for them to increase our understanding of our own world. As we keep doing that, one day, we will definitely reach the stars. He spoke with his eyes glittering, as if he had seen the magnificence of humanity. He spoke with utmost trust in his voice, and his smile fascinated me. He made me feel as if I was one of the pioneers, as we built the path for humanity to reach the stars together. So, don't burn yourself out. Get some rest. There is an interesting future ahead of us, and I want us both to be there to witness it. He said. I laughed a bit and said, that seems optimistic. And also naive. He then laughed out loud. But he stopped as he didn't expect me to say my next words, but, I'm in. I turned to him with a grin on my face and said, I couldn't let you hog all of the work, right? Especially if we truly want to see the stars. Wait. I didn't say it was me who will dash. No excuse. I shouted at him as I ran to the door. He tried to grab me, but I managed to slip past him. He laughed in disbelief as I opened the door and said, Don't you dare leave me alone and just focus on your career. You made me have a new ambition, so take responsibility for it. I knew I was being selfish, but hey, I had just become a teenager. There was leniency for people like me. I may not come from misery, or I may not be a superstar, but I will make sure that in my lifetime, humanity would be able to reach the stars. Laughable dream, but I'm excited for it. I mumbled to myself. Edward POV. After Alex opened the door, Enid, Jenna and Elsa all fell into the room as they were trying to eavesdrop on the conversation. They all scampered and hurriedly stood up from the ground before Enid took the lead and asked carefully, Have you guys worked things out? Alex proudly said, Yes. I just nodded in disbelief from afar before walking out of the closet. Jenna asked, Did you get spanked? Huh? Alex was confused by the questioning. I felt a bit tired and excused myself from the conversation, telling them that I had to go to the men's room. I returned to the hallways in front of the music classroom after 5 minutes, and I was surprised to see a familiar face standing in front of the door. Taylor. What are you doing here? I said as she ran and gave me a hug the moment she saw me. She kissed my cheek in a friendly manner and said, I missed you. Wait. Visitors pass? You actually went to register? I asked in confusion as I saw the tag on her neck. She rolled her eyes and said, I don't want to talk about that nightmare. Anyway, can we go somewhere more private? She glanced around, and although there were only a few kids walking around as they needed to decorate the school, she still felt self-conscious by their stares as they were trying to figure out who she was. Okay. We can go get some ice cream. Let me get my bag. I said in a casual manner before walking to the door. Wait. The teacher is letting you leave early? She asked in disbelief. That demon-like teacher? She mumbled incomprehensibly. I nodded, but with confusion in my face as I wondered why she was asking that question and explained, class is already over. I just need to tell the teacher. If necessary, Pepper will vouch for me, so it's not that hard for me to leave. Is everything okay? Why is your face so pale? Taylor suddenly gazed into my eyes. She gulped a few times, making me think that something had gone wrong. Ed, I'm late, she said while holding her stomach. I froze. Chapter 122, Kinder Surprise. General POV. Near the Whitebeard business office, a black-haired woman was sitting in front of Claire near the port as the latter read her resume. The woman had a clear view of the ocean while Claire was sitting with her back to it. Claire then smiled awkwardly and said, Francesca Dart. I read your resume, and you don't have to mind your words with me. I, for one, know that my resume is ordinary. I have no outstanding achievements, nor do I have a wide network of connections. Which leads me to the question, why did your boss offer me an interview and also paid for my flight ticket to LA? Frankie asked in confusion. Her no-nonsense attitude startled Claire a bit, but she quickly collected herself and asked, when did he email you? Last night. Frankie replied. And he told you to come in today? Claire said, a bit mad about Edward's overbearing CEO attitude. She was planning to lecture him, but Frankie's next answer saved Ed. No. He gave me a week's time. However, I could do all my research about the company from the website and finish it very quickly with the help of my friend Diane, and since I found nothing wrong or ambiguous about it, I decided to come here today to ask about your intentions in person. Claire chuckled a bit and asked, why? Do you feel that there is something wrong with the company? The generous salary, the potential employee housing, and the future trajectory of the company he mentioned in the email. Honestly, I thought this was a front for organ harvesting or human trafficking. The offer is too good to be true, especially for someone like me. Luckily for you, we are a legitimate company. Claire joked. I know. Frankie said seriously, making Claire's smile freeze. Anyway. I'm not pretty enough to tempt a rich man, nor do I have a connection with him in any way that I know of. I've lived in Utah all of my life. So tell me, Claire, why me? Frankie asked the question that had been bothering her for a while now. Claire was silent for a while, but as the vice director of logistics, she figured that this was a test from Edward, and she needed to handle the interview properly lest Ed thought she was bad at her job. I can't answer on his behalf. If you're really curious about that, maybe you can ask him later on once you've taken the job. But for me, I am impressed. You received the email last night, and apparently you finished your research so fast you're here today. Your efficiency is off the charts. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I became super excited about working with you as soon as I heard that. Frankie was the one that was stunned then. Her no-nonsense character usually turned people off, as they would see her as a pompous prick. To have someone think kindly about her persona made her blush a bit. The last person who did that was Diane, her platonic friend and partner in managing her life. Claire continued, to be honest, Edward doesn't hire people based on achievements, but rather potential and personality. There were a few people he chose that made me question his ability, but he has not missed his mark yet though. He seems to have this unparalleled talent for seeing through people. As soon as Claire said that, Dylan walked past the pier carrying a box of tablecloths in his hands, only to stumble on a tiny rock and stagger to the fence until his body was flipped over when he hit the fence without slowing down as he fell into the sea once more. The sound of the splash startled Frankie, but Claire just smiled wryly without even looking back and said, well, he nailed everyone except for Dylan. Dylan, are you okay? Dwayne ran to the fence quickly to provide some help. No need. I can swim now, Dylan said with a smile on his face as he swam dog-style to safety. Frankie and Claire both turned their attention back to one another after Dylan's proclamation. Frankie asked, who is Edward? Isn't Theodore Newgate the boss of this business? Huh, oh yeah, right. He's not on the list of employees. He is Theodore's son. He's the one who was mainly in charge of the whole operation. Edward Newgate. Surprising, right? Claire asked with a smirk on her face. Why is that surprising? There are a lot of children who helped their family in the business. Frankie asked, confused. Not that, he's Edward. Edward Newgate? You don't know him? Claire asked, confused by Frankie's reaction. Shaking her head slightly, Frankie said, no. Is he someone famous? He's a new artist, his songs are pretty up there. I think my husband and daughters mentioned an award or something, he was even on TV a few times. Oh. I don't own a TV. Nor do I listen to mainstream music. Frankie said while shrugging her shoulders. Claire froze as she heard that. Edward POV back to school. As I froze, my skill was suddenly activated, bringing me out from the storm in my mind. I noticed a subtle curling of Taylor's lips as she pretended to be afraid, and realized that she was trying to freak me out. Damn! I had almost fallen into her trap. Hiding my amusement, I pretended to be in despair before purposely stuttering and said, "Are you sure?" Yes. I am 100% sure. Taylor said. She didn't clarify. I guess she wants to use the vagueness in her sentence to make it seem like I freak out over nothing. But Taylor sweetie, you have no idea who you are messing with, you have really underestimated me. Play with fire and you shall get burnt. This is really my forte. Taylor POV. As soon as he freaked out about the pregnancy, he would play right into my palms. Yeah, that's right. Say it. Show me that you hate it. That's wonderful. Ed muttered with a smile on his face. I froze. He took a step forward and wrapped his hand over my waist as he pulled me in closer to him. So we have one from the 10 children you had planned, he said casually as he kissed my forehead. My mind quickly falls into a spiral as both of my fear and anticipation were trying to win the struggle they have against one another. Wait. You aren't mad? I said, desperately trying to push his face away before he could sneak in a kiss again. My mind was a mess right now. Shouldn't men freak out when you do this? We have careers on our own. We are still young. We are destroying our future. Abort it. And a lot more similar reactions. This must be the first time ever someone in our situation has responded nicely to the potential of having a child together. My breath quickened, and my heart beat vigorously as I imagined a life with him. A normal life in the country, with no one to bother us, no one to judge us, just me, him, and our 11 children. My stomach was filled with butterflies, and I may or may not be currently considering not correcting his misunderstanding right now. But then, Edward added with a downcast expression, however, it seems that we have to separate now. I knew it. Men are all the same dash. When you get out of jail, we can be together again. I will wait for you with our child, and raise them properly in your absence. Ed continued, not minding my outburst. My mind short-circuited. Then I realized it, making my face pale. There was a huge oversight on my part. He was still a minor. Wait, no. It was legal in California. No. Ed. I'm not Dash. As I freaked out, I saw him smirking and trying to cover up his laugh. Anger filled my chest and blood rushed to my head as I realized I had been tricked by him. I stomped on his feet, making him exclaim in pain. Jerk! I am not that old. And I'm not pregnant. I shouted before I stomped away. I'll wait in the car, I said as I needed some time to calm myself down. Edward POV. Ow, my foot. I laughed before Taylor walked away. I ran to the music classroom and grabbed my bag before running after her. We'll continue the session tomorrow. Phineas, bring Billy tomorrow, okay? I said. Wait, Ed. Alex called out. I have an emergency. I got a jet. Sorry, guys. I said and got out of there before anyone could ask anything. I ran outside the school to the parking lot, and opened the door of the tinted Mercedes SUV that Taylor drove over here. "We were getting ice cream, right?" I asked to change the subject as I saw her still fuming in the driver's seat. She was taken aback and asked, "We were? Didn't we agree on that before?" I asked, tilting my head in a fake confusion. She broke into a smile, and she hid it quickly to pretend that she was still angry and said, "Okay. But you're buying." I smiled and had to coax her for a long time afterward, even though I was the victim of her prank. She wasn't completely kidding though. She was late. She was supposed to be at the shooting for her music video in 20 minutes, and we were still 40 minutes away from the set. "Sue, ice cream or no ice cream?" I asked with a mischievous smile on my face. "Ice cream," she said decisively. We stopped by an ice cream shop and bought mint chocolate chips for her, and chocolate fudge for me. She desperately wanted me to buy the Chubby Hubby cookies and cream ice cream, but that name scared me so much that I had to reject her suggestion. "Hey, are you guys?" The fat ice cream shop owner felt that we looked familiar as I was paying for the ice cream. Taylor lowered her baseball cap while I smiled at him and said, "Yeah, we are. We're your regulars. I'm surprised you recognize us. Had you finally stopped adding liquor into your morning coffee, Adam?" He was startled and he rubbed his face in embarrassment, no longer caring about our identities. Taylor widened her eyes and stared at me, but I subtly made a shush gesture at her to avoid her revealing my lie. Yes. I stopped doing that. I also joined AA. I'm working really hard now," Adam said as he took the money from my hand. "Good for you. I believe you can beat your alcoholism, Adam. You're also becoming much skinnier now. It won't be long till the ladies queue up," I said with a smile. Taylor nudged me as she thought I was going too far, making us finally exposed, but Adam's mood was lifted by the joke, and he laughed out loud before saying, "You know what? For my regulars, no charge. Take this." He gave me my money back to my surprise. Adam dash. "No. Take it. I owe it to you. I haven't felt this good in years," he said with a wide grin on his face. He was being pushy, so I reluctantly took the money back and waved goodbye at the man as I walked out of the store. Taylor asked curiously, "Are you really a regular here?" "Nope. This is my first time coming here," I replied casually. Taylor stopped in her tracks as she was shocked by what just happened. I walked to the driver's side of the door and asked her, "Gimme the keys." "No. You don't have a license." She snapped out of it and admonished me immediately. "Yeah, I don't. But if you want to make up for the lost time, you should really let me drive." She shrunk her head back and asked quizzically, "Really? How?" "Give me the keys and you'll know," I replied. After I drove the red Porsche like a madman before, it was like a switch had been turned on inside my brain. I wanted to drive a car so much. "SSL, slow down. There's a bump ahead," Taylor screamed while still holding her ice cream cone near her face. I was driving near 80 miles per hour on a 50 miles per hour road, and it scared her very much. I spun the wheel and turned the car into a small alley instead of getting to the main road after the speed bump. Taylor leaned on my shoulder from the centrifugal force and said angrily as I accelerated through the narrow gap between the buildings, "You're done." "Stop, stop, stop." I laughed and threw my shortcut. We managed to cut 10 minutes in our arrival time after avoiding the main route. "You're crazy," she said with ice cream smeared on top of her lips. I laughed and said, "You're the one who said you were late." The car moved smoothly as we finally moved out of the city, and there was no other car on the road in front of us. "Hey. You got some ice cream there," I notified her. Where?" she asked, leaning forward to try and look at the back view mirror to see which part of her face was smudged. "Here. Let me wipe it," I said as I took a tissue from the box nearby. She smiled and pursed her lips at mine to wait for my fingers. However, I leaned forward and kissed her, licking the ice cream above her lips at the same time. She widened her eyes, and became a bit abashed as she didn't expect the sudden attack.
"What's with you all of a sudden?"
she said with an embarrassed smile on her face.
"I just think it'll be a waste of tissue paper."
"You know, I need to kiss you, to save our resources, and also save the world in the process,"
I joked.
She laughed and leaned to the side, putting her hands on my thigh as she whispered, "Handsome, and also environmentally friendly. That's what it said on my merchandise label." Taylor smiled and blew her breath in my ears before she whispered, "I missed you."
I turned to her and said, "I missed you too. And get your hand off my pants. I'm trying to drive over here."
"Shit, cops.
Act normal."
Taylor saw the cops too and cursed, "Damn." She went back to her seat and pulled her seatbelt immediately. The cops stopped the car, and I turned the windows down.
"Good afternoon, officer. What can I do for you?"
I asked the rough-looking man who was leaning in to look inside the car from the window.
Unlike the ice cream store owner, he recognized me immediately and took off his sunglasses. "Edward Newgate?"
"God, I'm such a fan of yours," the cop said.
"What are you guys doing here?" "Wait, is that Dash?"
"Yeah, that's Taylor."
"And I really can't say what we were doing. You understand, right?" I said, hinting at him.
He widened his eyes, darting his pupils between Taylor and I a few times, with his expression changing from disbelief to happiness as he did.
"My daughter will be so happy if she hears this. Then, it'll just be a secret between us and your daughter,"
Taylor added with a grin on her face as she hugged my arm.
"Yes, ma'am." "All right. You guys can go," he asked. "No need to check for ID?" "You guys are looking for suspects, aren't you?" I asked curiously.
Taylor pinched my waist, hard.
She then whispered, "Why the hell did you ask? Did you forget you don't have a license?"
Luckily for me, the cop didn't hear what she said as his walkie-talkie was turned on this time. He leaned in again and said, "That's right. I won't tell you what the case is, but it has something to do with a serial strangler."
"Wait. The tea-time stranger?" I asked in surprise. "I knew you could guess it."
"Unfortunately, it seems that the guy has moved his site to this area. There have been 2 cases in the neighborhood already."
"You kids be careful, all right?" "Yeah, we will. Thanks, Officer Malone," I said.
"Thanks, officer," Taylor said. I rolled the window back down and drove away from the police check in a calm manner.
Taylor then turned to me and asked, "You know, I still don't get it. How can you guess their names?" "Whose names?" I asked.
"In the ice cream shop, and now with the officer."
"How?" she asked.
I turned towards her in disbelief and said, "You know they were both wearing name tags, right?" "Then, let me change my question.
Why did you call them by their names?"
she asked after thinking for a while. I shrugged and said, "It makes them feel good about themselves. And when they do, it's easier to get them to have a nice impression of us.
After that, we can get away with almost anything,"
I said with a sly smile. She rolled her eyes at me, before falling into contemplation about what I just said.
We arrived at the set of Love Story music video production. "Oh boy, here she comes,"
Taylor muttered as we saw a stern-looking staff member walking towards us.
"Just be calm," I replied. "I'm here to support you if you decide to lie."
"Taylor,
you're finally here."
She then saw me, and she scrunched her brows as she asked, "Were you late because you were on a date?"
"No. There's a major traffic jam, Jessica. A strangler is loose in the neighborhood," Taylor replied. "What?" Jessica asked, confused.
Then, her lips curled upwards as it was the first time Taylor ever called her by her name. Then, her face turned angry again and she said, "Anyway,
glad you could make it.
You need to change your outfit now."
"The princess outfit, right? Did you work on that? That looks really nice," I said. Jessica then broke into a huge grin and said, "I know, right? It took me weeks to finalize it. I can see that.
I can't wait to see how Taylor looks when she wears it.
I replied.
Taylor blushed and Jessica put the clothes on her arm before saying, "Go and change."
We don't have much time.
The female director with black hair and bright blue eyes walked towards us with a cup of coffee in hand before offering a handshake to me. Edward Newgate, right? God, I love Enemy so much, I even bought the short version and used it as a ringtone.
Well, thank you for your patronage. You're Mrs. Trey Fanjoy, right?
She raised one of her eyebrows and said, "I'm surprised you know me. I'm only active in the country music genre after all."
Do you like country music, Ed? I wouldn't say I hate it. Well then, maybe we can work together sometime. I would love that.
After exchanging pleasantries with the director, she walked me through the set and talked about her inspiration for the video. She even told us how she draws her ideas from the Renaissance and the Regency era periods, and also asked me about my opinion on the matter. One thing that needed to be noted though was that you had to be careful when you talked to her, otherwise, you would quickly find yourself being among one of the extras in her videos, and be forced to wear Renaissance-era style clothing as you somehow had to participate in a ballroom scene.
Like I currently was. Walk me through how my presence in the video was good for Taylor again? I asked. Chapter 123, The Princess's Plight. General POV.
The director, Trey Fanjoy, sat at the director's seat and rubbed her chin as she contemplated about the music video and the two kids' fate had tangled in the matter.
It's funny.
They're feeling very threatened by a 15-year-old child.
Why?
She mumbled to herself as she watched how Edward Newgate, who was arguably the hottest commodity in the current music industry, allowed himself to be dragged so easily into the music video production. Edward, however, was indeed aware of the significance of his participation in the music video, but he did it anyway to show his support for his friend. It made Trey acknowledge his integrity, and she slowly started being influenced by the shipping movement on Twitter, which wanted Ed and Taylor to end up together. Trey had already contacted his lawyers, who surprised her as they were already ready for her call. She mulled over the whole thing. The kid she was observing was laughing together with the makeup artist as she tried to put a fake beard on his face, and Trey couldn't help but break into a smile as she finally made a decision.
Well, I'm not the one who will have to deal with the consequences soon after, she thought as she laughed.
Her phone rang at that very same time, however, as she picked it up after checking the caller ID.
Oh.
You're very, very late.
It's best if you don't even come,
Trey said in a casual manner, making the other person in line express his shock with a gasp.
There is traffic. The police pulled me over and asked me multiple questions. I even needed to call my lawyer, they even wanted me to go down to the station.
The male lead of the MV panicked as he tried to explain himself. It wasn't his fault that he fit the police profile for the Tea Time Strangler, but the director didn't care about him anymore.
He was the next best thing, but not the best thing. The shoot's already over.
There was an emergency, so we are pulling the curtains early.
I'll call you back when we decide on the new schedule. Trey lied in a casual manner.
If he fits the profile for the suspect.
Maybe I should have a talk with the agency before changing the main lead, but I guess it's unnecessary now.
Although, I do hope Taylor would tell me about this sooner,
Trey thought secretly.
She also planned to turn off her mobile after the call, to make the previous male lead realize her hint.
Honestly, it'd be pretty stupid not to use Ed now, right? Trey muttered to the always angry Jessica who stood beside her. Yes. But what can we do?
The agency made it clear that we shouldn't let Edward near this production at all,
Jessica replied with an angry scoff. Oh well.
Trey smiled inexplicably, which made Jessica feel a little weirded out. It's not like they are checking on the progress, she trailed off and walked away, which made Jessica's eyes follow her exit while simultaneously questioning the director's sanity. Then, she turned her head forward and snapped, "Who the fuck put the vase in the middle of the ballroom? Are you people out of your goddamn mind dash?"
Edward POV. Beard?
Yes.
To make me seem like a college guy?
That's correct. The makeup artist answered my every question while she still kept her hands moving as she worked non-stop on my face.
Hey, it tickles,
I said as I shrunk my neck, trying to escape the brushes with the fake beard glue. The makeup artist smiled in disbelief before pulling my head and making sure it was straight before continuing her job.
Don't move. This is already pretty hard without you moving around like a squirrel. Wait, you did makeup on a squirrel before? Was it called Alvin, Simon, or Theodore?
She rolled her eyes and continued tickling me as she put on the fake beard on my cheeks. A golden vase, a black suit, frills on the sleeve and the neck, and then the fake beard in classy Duke hairstyle. As I looked into the mirror, I muttered, wait.
Isn't this the male lead's outfit design? You're overthinking. You're just an extra. Suddenly, a voice answered my question from behind.
I turned and automatically fell in awe as I saw Taylor in a princess-like, golden dress which was the same color as her hair.
Dawn was the seductress, and only her innocent girl persona was kept.
Her cheeks were rosy, her lips were painted a natural color, her golden locks were styled like a Victorian-era princess, revealing her nape and bringing attention to her neck at the same time.
She smirked as she saw my reaction, and laughed at my frilly outfit. Who are you? Ron Weasley?
So she was also a Harry Potter fan.
Good to know. That's preposterous, my lady.
Look closer. There aren't any similarities between me and that sniveling, shameful excuse for a man, none at all.
I say.
Taylor laughed and blushed a bit. She lowered her gaze and said, that sounds nice. I tried to guess, insulting Ron is nice, dash.
You, calling me my lady dot. She interjected.
Her already blushing cheeks turned even redder, and her words made the makeup artist gasp and cover her mouth before chuckling at the teenage drama going on in front of her. Taylor gazed into my eyes while shyly brushing her hair behind her ears, which made me stare in awe for the second time.
Ah! I exclaimed before the makeup station fell into an uncomfortable silence.
The makeup artist rolled her eyes again and said, "Don't flirt just yet."
"I'm not done yet." "Then
I'll wait for you at the dance floor, my lord." Taylor joked and ran away while holding her long skirt up before I could respond. The makeup artist mumbled aloud, to flirt so brazenly in front of other people, I guess that's the beauty of being young. I rolled my eyes at her before chuckling a bit about the whole situation. After 10 minutes, the director called me to the center of the ballroom set.
She then asked, "Ed, do you know how to dance?" "No," I replied. "But I guess I'll be a fast learner."
"Well, we'll see if you can back up those words."
"JJ, take the lead,"
he said as he gave the floor to the choreographer. The Latina dance director suddenly pulled me forward and grabbed me by the waist.
"Oh God!"
I exclaimed from her forceful action. "You're going to partner with me, and I will teach you what you need to know," she said before she suddenly spun me around, and then grabbed my hand, making me lock eyes intensely with her as she made me pose.
"I'm still waiting for your answer," she muttered. "Why, yes, ma'am,"
I replied hurriedly as I got swept away by her momentum. Taylor laughed as she had already learned the dance in the morning. It took only 15 minutes to learn the ballroom Renaissance era dance, and I had thoroughly impressed the coordinator by truly capturing the essence of the dance in such a short time even when I was learning directly from her.
"You have talent. Do you want to learn how to dance, Dash? He's busy enough already."
The director saved me from the awkward situation by shoving the excited dance coordinator aside and walked right at me.
"Ed, a word," she called.
"Sure," I replied before walking side by side with her to the edge of the set.
"Hey, listen."
The male lead couldn't make it, so the shooting had to be postponed.
"So, I was wondering, will you shoot the scene with Taylor instead?"
Although I had the feeling that she always wanted me to play the main lead from the very beginning, I decided not to expose her and simply say, "Okay.
I will do it." Trey smirked and said, "Good enough, Dash."
But I know that the whole video isn't going to be shot in a day, or even just at this location.
I mean, I do want to do it, but I don't know if I can make it to the next shooting. So, are you sure about this?
To my surprise, Trey dismissed my concerns and said, "Don't worry.
I have already contacted Harvey. She gave me the okay."
Oh. That's great, but the agency wants to settle the music video shooting today, right?
So how dash? Don't worry about that. And don't say any more words that could be used against us later on. Just play along. I know I am.
I nodded with a confused face and said, "Okay then." The set played the song Old Russian Waltz Expectation as the scene started. We shot the dance scene first and foremost before the cast member forgot all about their choreography, and also because the director wanted to see Taylor and mine's chemistry on the screen as we danced. Taking advantage of the lack of a microphone in the set, I spoke to Taylor as we got ready in our stance, arm reached out, wrist almost touching one another as we spun while looking at each other.
"You look wonderful in that dress." I gave her a compliment. "Is this turning you on? Wait, no?
I need to keep an innocent girl persona here,"
she muttered jokingly. Both of us chuckled a bit with our eyes never separating from one another. The director was satisfied as she watched us through the camera and gave the cue, "Okay now lovers. Start dancing."
We finally stopped spinning, and we danced the whole ballroom routine together.
As we danced, I asked Taylor, "So,
apparently there is some kind of secret plot going on behind the scenes in my casting process.
Any thoughts on that?" "Honestly, it was just luck,"
Taylor said ambiguously as we stuck a joint pose, hands behind our back, but still connected with one another.
"Really? And does this Lady Luck know that I am unavailable for the entire week because I have a small performance to prepare for? Does she know I can't fly to Texas for 2 days to shoot the next scene at the castle and college? Mind telling me what exactly is Lady Luck planning to do about all that? Just believe in the lady. Has Lady Luck ever disappointed you?" Taylor asked jokingly, still not giving me an answer. "A lot of times actually," I replied.
Taylor then whispered, "That's too bad.
Should Lady Luck cheer you up for her past transgressions? In her golden ballroom gown that you couldn't pry your eyes away from? I'd like that. But I have to clarify. It wasn't the gown I was in awe of."
She looked a bit confused as we had to change position to face each other, with our hands together close to our chest.
"I was struck by the person wearing it," I said.
Taylor blushed and she missed a step, causing her to fall into my arms.
"Be careful.
It's easy to get injured, especially when your skirt is dragging on the ground," I said with a concerned voice. She blushed before she stood back on her feet. "I know, I'm counting on that."
"What dash?"
Before I could ask, the director clapped her hands and said, "Wonderful.
Magnifique. Bravissimo. I knew it. Edward's a natural in front of the camera.
Even more than Taylor dash."
"Hey," Taylor retorted. "I know. I did a whole song about that."
I joked playfully, which made the staff members around the set laugh out loud. Then, we continued with the next scene, which was the first time Romeo asked Juliet for a dance, and when they planned to sneak out of the ballroom hall to meet up at the back garden. The more scenes we filmed, the more validated the director felt about her split decision to cast me as the male lead today. However, as we finished the day, Taylor's short-haired, glasses-wearing, chubby but still quite hot ghostwriter/assistant/agency spy entered the set with a sleazy-looking lawyer by her side.
"What is going on? Why isn't anyone answering their phones?" she asked angrily. "Also, why is Edward Newgate acting on this? Didn't the agency clearly say to make sure Taylor stayed away from him?" "Hey!" I called out to her with an angry expression on my face.
She suddenly realized what she had done, and shrinked back to hide behind the lawyer as I was walking up to her.
I am dash. Shut up. So, the agency wants me to stay away from Taylor? Why? Is she your slave? I asked with fake anger.
I already knew about the matter as Taylor had told me about it before, but now seemed like a good time to make my stance clear in all of this drama.
"Mr. Newgate, Miss Berry misspoke. Isn't that right, miss?
The lawyer interjected before I could continue.
And you are? Paul. Paul Winger. I'm a lawyer sent here by the agency directors, just in case.
But as I step in here, I can guess their intuition was spot on.
Paul said. I need to talk to Trey. Let's all walk together, shall we?
Paul's tone was calm, and it was hard for me to continue my act as soon as he intervened without making myself look like a fool, so I just nodded along as we all walked to the director's seat together. Trey was checking the footage when she saw us and proceeded to expertly greet the lawyer and the assistant happily when they arrived.
Trey.
I hope you understand that while Mr. Newgate here is certainly welcomed on site given his status within the industry and as a close friend to our star, we don't have a contract with Entertain.
The company will be in big trouble if you act like this.
You should have at least notified us of any problems so that we could come to a possible solution. Paul said with the hidden meaning, you shouldn't do anything without talking to us first.
Because of that, all of the efforts the kids have done here today will be for naught. We can reshoot the entire thing tomorrow. Nothing personal, Ed, I know you have a busy week.
We're planning to release the music video next Friday, and we really can't adjust to your schedule.
You understand, right?
It's for Taylor after all. We still have the set for one more day, so consider today as a cheat day, a simple time for you guys to have fun together. I could have pointed out the multiple lies and inconsistencies in his speech, but I decided to hold myself back as I saw the look on the director's and Taylor's face. Taylor nodded at the director's cue and had a determined look on her face.
She walked towards where we were standing and called out to the assistant, "Br-."
But then, she suddenly stepped on her long skirt, slipped and fell down on the floor. Her fall, however, was so fake I nearly burst out laughing while she screamed, "Ow," in a monotonous tone.
Ha!
Barry and Paul were confused, but the director and I had already run towards the fallen girl.
Taylor? Are you all right?
I asked with a concerned tone, a skill that made the director almost break her composure as she wanted to praise me for it.
My leg.
Taylor exclaimed in a poorly concealed fake tone. I raised one of my eyebrows as I thought to myself, she sure can't act. Trey checked her ankle and said, this looks bad.
It's already bruising and swelling up.
I think it will take about a week to heal at the very least, especially before she can reshoot the dance number. I'm surrounded by pig teammates.
I thought to myself. What bruise?
Barry and Paul hurriedly came over and Barry checked on the ankle herself, but of course, Taylor's legs looked normal to her. I said it's coming up, not that it's there right now. Trey rebuked her. Barry scrunched her face in frustration and shouted, is this your scheme, Dash?
Barry. Can't you see that Taylor's in pain? She needs to go to the doctor. Trey said urgently. Left leg or right? Right. Go to my family doctor. He's nearby.
Taylor said, trying hard to fake pain in her tone.
I'm sure he is.
I retorted to myself before saying, good.
Let's go.
I then wrapped my arms around Taylor's neck and waist, startling the girl.
She stammered, why wait, Dash?
But I ignored her. The longer she stayed here, the easier it would be for the lawyer to untangle her schemes. I picked her up in a princess carry, which earned a gasp from the people watching the scene. She fit neatly in my arms, which made her blush up a storm.
See?
Her face is bright red, clearly in pain.
How can you still say that she's faking it? Trey added. No one said that. Stop talking.
I screamed in frustration internally before turning to Barry and said in a cold tone, I'm taking her to the doctor.
Do you have any problems with that? No. Good. I'll meet you guys there.
I said before walking away with Taylor in my arms. Some girls who were watching squealed and even snapped a picture of the fairy tale-worthy scene, making Paul and Barry flabbergasted as they quickly went to try to confiscate the evidence. As we got into her car, I glanced at the girl who was burying her face in my chest and rubbing it inappropriately as she got the chance before saying, your left leg, is it still hurting?
Yeah. It hurts, a lot.
she replied, faking her pain again.
I raised one of my eyebrows and asked, "Didn't you say it was the right one back on set?" "Okay. I'm busted," she said with a smile on her face. "So, is this your master plan? Faking an injury so they postpone the shooting until I can make it? Isn't it obvious?"
Although, my ankle and my knees are really hurting now. I slipped at the last moment, and slammed them pretty hard. It was clearly a tiny collision, but she was feeling extra clingy and wanted to get pampered by me more.
"I want to say serves you right, but I'm afraid you would actually kick me so," I joked as I laid her down gently on the backseat of her black Mercedes-Benz SUV. She laughed and said, "I can't kick you now. My feet are supposed to be hurting, remember?" After a light chuckle, I asked, "What's the plan now? And is the doctor a part of it?" "Yes. Dr. Jamie always lets me play hooky when I want to. I've already told him about the plan a few days ago." "And how did you get Harvey to join you on this endeavor?" "That's a secret between the girls, so I won't tell you," she said while pulling her tongue at me before lying down on the seat. "Now, take your princess away to see the doctor. Wait, you still don't have a license dash." I smirked and pressed the pedal hard before she could finish her words, causing her to be thrown to the backrest. She groaned in annoyance and kicked the back of my seat as the car entered the streets. "Drive properly." General POV. Back on set, Trey was still getting grilled by Paul and Barry after Edward had left with Taylor. "Trey, you do know it's not too late to change the director. I hope you're clear on that," Paul said through gritted teeth, as all he could get after so long were some lazy and ambiguous answers from the stubborn woman. Trey drank her coffee and said casually, "No. I'm not clear on that. In fact, I do know that those are just some pretty stupid threats that would only work if they came from anyone but a corporate slave. As it stands, I have seen the budget and there is no way the studio is doubling that up in order to cover up your mistake. You bitch dash." Whoa whoa whoa. What's with all the aggression? And here I thought Pictionary Night with Pepper was explosive enough. Harvey suddenly walked in, making Paul freeze where he was standing. "Hi. You must be Harvey." Trey stood up from her director's seat and walked to shake hands with Harvey. Paul was visibly sweating as he was reminded of the terror he had felt the last time when the woman in front of him sat across from him during the collaboration contract negotiation. Pulling on his collar a bit, trying to breathe easier, Paul said, "Miss Spector. Why are you here?" "Well, my artist is working here, unpaid if I might add. And if I was the suspicious sort, I might be forced to think he could have been tricked by some bad people, so I decided to err on the side of caution and rush over here in order to set things straight," Harvey said in a sarcastic manner. She looked around and then said, "I guess we have a lot of things to talk about, don't we, Paul?" Paul's face paled, and then Harvey turned to the girl beside him. "And Barry. Long time no see. I guess you should report to your owner about the incident right about now, or they might fail to see the value of your continued employment, and should that happen, who knows, they might just realize that you have no value at all." "Harvey!" Barry screamed in anger. "What?" Harvey replied in a cold manner while glaring at the girl. Trey interjected quickly before Barry would cry, "I guess we should talk about the acting contract now, right? We should wait a bit first. Taylor might not be injured, we are still unclear on that," Paul muttered. "Keep lying to yourself, Paul," Harvey snide. Chapter 124, A Promise. Edward POV. Taylor was lying down on the backseat of the car with her hand propping up her head as she laid on her side, watching me drive through the heavy traffic. She smirked and said, "You know, I'm starting to wonder if the Duke's horse is sick? Or if it's just your riding skill that sucks? No. It's only your poor attempt at a Victorian-era speech that stinks, my lady. Besides, this is your stallion. Not mine." She was pissed and she sat up immediately before pulling herself near the back of my seat. She wrapped her left arm around me before saying, "Any more words, and it'll be considered treason. Wow. Your shirt is really soft." She suddenly rubbed her hand around my chest,
and even slipped it underneath the shirt before saying, "This one here is surprisingly hard. I know that you're feeling turned on after successfully finishing your scheme, but please don't distract me while I'm driving."
Oh? But what if I still want to do that? Will you stop me?
She slowly lowered her hands to my crotch area, and gave my family jewels a few squeezes while a sense of superiority filled her mind. Then, I suddenly hit the brake pedal, causing a backlash in the car. She hit the back of the seat, and almost flew forward to the front seat if I didn't stop her momentum with my hand.
Told you. I muttered. I didn't do that on purpose.
She truly had distracted me from looking on the road. That was why I didn't see the asshole red Porsche running the red light that almost caused me to run into him due to his reckless driving.
You did that on purpose,
she said angrily before she made her way to the front passenger seat. Her long and fluffy dress hit me in the eyes a few times, and even covered up my sight as she did her dangerous stunt.
Hey, stop that! I warned her.
She slipped and fell on the seat, with one of her feet almost kicking the gearshift, and another one was resting on my shoulder. Her skirt was a mess from the seat change, and it was pulled back, revealing her medieval-style panties. I then realized that she wasn't wearing shoes, as the director had taken them off to check on her feet before.
Get your stinky feet out of my face, I said while slapping her feet away.
She gasped as she took offense before pushing her toe on my cheek. You take that back.
I don't have stinky feet.
I will take that back once you wash them. The argument caused a fight, and it shook the entire car as we drove through the street, making some passers-by look at the tinted window of the car with a weird look on their faces. After 5 minutes, both of us were laughing together at the silliness and the childish scheme that Taylor had done.
Hey! I don't have my phone with me,
Taylor suddenly said. I don't even have anything at all on me. All of my stuff is back on set.
Ah. My phone is there too, I muttered. And also my keys, my school bag. She grinned and leaned to my face before speaking in a seductive manner. So, you were really concerned about me, huh?
You freaked out so much you forgot to bring all of your stuff with you.
I was, until I realized you were faking it,
I replied playfully before grabbing her right hand and kissing the back of her palm.
But yeah.
My heart almost dropped when I saw you fall on the floor. She couldn't hide her grin, and then she flopped her head on my shoulder before speaking in a dispirited voice, You know.
I am waiting for you to break me out. I know, I replied curtly.
I was trying hard to follow the plan for our collaboration scheme to play in a perfect manner. It really did take me a lot of sleepless nights to get it just right. After all, while I knew Taylor had her family with her at the time and a pretty decent lawyer, the truth was that she was still just breaking into the scene and thus couldn't be too picky on the terms, which made the contract pretty tricky to pick apart without basically drowning both of us in debt. I didn't want to give her false hope before I could finally break it apart. Thank God Harley was helping me along, or I doubt I would have even come up with what we had now. She sighed and changed the subject. Sue, when I finally get into your agency, you won't withhold my pay, or try to pay me with sex, right? Well, if I could pay it with some orgasms, I would, but I think that behavior is frowned upon in America. I would have to give you a normal dividend payment because of that. She chortled and even snorted like a pig subconsciously, which made her embarrassed and a bit angry at me for making her do that.
You're the pig. I didn't even say anything,
I said with quite a bit of mirth in my tone.
You're saying it now. How? I exclaimed in anguish.
While I was traveling with the runaway princess, I didn't realize that a picture of me carrying Taylor in a princess carry, and the details about her being hurt on the set which led me to do that, had spread throughout all social media.
General POV. Are you sure leaking the pictures is a good idea?
Trey asked while sipping tea from a small, porcelain white cup while sitting in front of Harvey at a cafe table near the filming set.
I'm sure. It's what Ed would do.
To be honest, Taylor's schemes, while surprisingly effective, were pretty childish. It was actually full of holes. The agency could pretty much use their own doctor and force a checkup on her. They wouldn't even have to give excuses other than their concern over her injury, and given her current tour dates she would have no leg to stand on if she wanted to refuse.
But now that the picture is leaked,
The burden of proof will be on the agency, not on her, especially with the kind of fans she and Edward have cultivated.
teenage girls are crazy over their ship, their sacred OTP.
A/N, one true pairing.
2009 Internet lingo. I believe that's what they are calling it now. The pressure will be immense.
Harvey replied casually as she read the Twitter trending responses from her alt account she used to post the pictures anonymously. I'm surprised they haven't contacted you already,
Trey said in disbelief after hearing her explanation.
As Harvey expected, the tweet had gone viral, and the attention on the love story music video was tremendous. The low IQ fans were practically screeching on social media, and the thirsty women from Ed's fan club were practically licking the screen as they saw a 10-year aged-up Ed in a Prince outfit. Harvey sipped her cup of tea before saying, basically before this went out there was still a small chance that the agency would choose to risk it and separate them, maybe even completely burying the duet. I wouldn't even put it beyond them to leave it out of the album release altogether. Harvey continued, but now they have no chance but to let them act together and, if they are smart, they will try to mainstream their duet over Taylor's version or risk facing the unrelenting criticism from their crazy fan base. Besides, it would also help them generate even more attention for her new songs while they are at it.
Trey widened her eyes a bit before saying, now that's a badass lawyer.
While the two were having a nice time together, the record label agency duo was in deep shit as they couldn't even hope to prevent any of Harvey's dominoes from falling.
So, we've officially lost all possible leverage for the upcoming negotiations.
Now the fans will be furious if we somehow manage to continue the shoot without Ed in the video, and that's without even getting into the cost of setting everything up again. There is no way we can get the necessary budget for that,
Paul said self-deprecatingly. I just hope I am not fired over this. They've already won,
Barry said while biting her lips in frustration.
Damn it. And now the director wants to meet Edward. What should I do, Paul?
She asked with teary eyes.
How the hell should I know?
I'll suck your dick if you can help me think. Paul was taken aback for a second, and then he seriously thought about the matter.
Edward POV. Hey. You hungry? I asked.
Taylor was startled by the sudden question. Her eyes sparkled in anticipation, then she turned depressed as she realized something.
A little bit. But we have no money, Taylor replied in a sad voice. Nah. Don't worry. I have some, I replied with a smirk. Huh? Where? And how?
She asked in confusion as she turned her head towards me.
Didn't you leave all of your stuff at the set? Well, unlike the female dress, my breeches do indeed have pockets, I said playfully. I have my wallet on me.
Oh! Taylor exclaimed in excitement before she became dispirited again, but you know, it'll be impossible for us to go eat at a restaurant while wearing clothes like this.
Who said anything about a restaurant?
I teased her before pulling the car over to a Big Belly Burgers' drive-through place. I lowered the tinted window of the driver's seat while the intercom was connected. Welcome to Big Belly Burgers, where we filled you up with both food and laughter.
My name is Jesse. Can I take your order?
The one on the intercom said without any emotion in her greeting. Taylor widened her eyes, as she giggled hard as it was her first ever entering a drive-through with a boy. She hugged my arm as she leaned into my chest, trying to read the menu written near the intercom.
Hi Jesse. Can I get a double cheeseburger, a cappuccino milkshake, a corn dog, and some fries? Will that be all? Jesse asked.
I turned to Taylor and whispered, now you.
Can I get a salad ? I laughed at her before she could finish. Hey. It's rare for you to have the chance to get some fast food. Are you sure you want to go with a salad? Rare? More like never. But I see your point. Can I get a corn dog, onion fries, and a strawberry milkshake? Oh, and can I take some tortillas too? And the burrito? They look good, Taylor asked me with her killer puppy dog eyes.
I already knew that I was the one who was going to have to finish all the food, so I just nodded helplessly at her. She brightened up and added one last thing to the order, and I want a large slice of cheesecake dash. The cheesecake is only available for over-the-counter order.
It doesn't have a takeout. I'm sorry, Jessie replied. Before Taylor could remove the order, I interjected, can we order here and pick it up on the counter? Just put it on a disposable dish. Can you do me this favor, Jessie? I'm not supposed to do that. But I guess if you want to come inside, there will be no problem. Yeah. I can do that. That will be all. The total is $29.90. Pull over to the front, Jessie said before the order disconnected. Are you crazy? Taylor scolded me angrily as I finished up the order. How are we going to go there? I don't need the cake. Just cancel it, dash. Shush. I shushed her by putting my finger on her lips. She looked up to me with some anger on her face, which in turn made her look so sexy. I will go pick it up. You don't have to get out. Her cheeks turned red with embarrassment as she tried to convince me to change my mind. You really don't have to do that, I'm fine without the cake. I smiled at her and said, it's okay. You know what they say, it's all part of the noblesse oblige. If my princess wants cheesecake, she will get her cheesecake. Taylor chortled out loud while lightly punching my shoulder. What the hell is that? Okay, you know what? If you want to do it so much, then do it. I will do it. Then do it. I will. Both of us laughed together at the pointless fight. After parking the car nearby, I jogged inside the restaurant to pick up the cheesecake. I got a lot of stares from the customers and the workers inside the restaurant, but luckily for me, Jessie had already finished prepping the cake and was waiting for me at the cashier. It took me less than 3 minutes in and out of the restaurant before I jogged back to the SUV. I was sure that I got some pictures taken by some of the people there, but I just decided to ignore it and deal with any possible consequences if and when they came. This, however, was mainly because I didn't know that my picture with Taylor had already been circulating on the internet, so I assumed people wouldn't pay much attention to a boy wearing a Victorian-era prince's outfit out to buy fast food. After all, this is America. We have a lot of weird people over here. This is good? Want a taste? Taylor said before shoving her burrito in front of my face. I reluctantly took a tiny bite after finishing my own food and 2/3 of her order, so I was feeling pretty full at the moment. The car was parked at a cliff nearby where we could see the city. While munching the food, I asked, shouldn't we hurry to your doctor? We don't have phones. And we don't know the roads in the city. So of course we just got lost. That is what we are going to tell them, Taylor said with a smirk before putting her barely eaten burrito in my hands as she expected me to finish it. She opened the lid for her milkshake before using her finger to scoop up the cream and lick it. Lucky for me, I won't get fat no matter how much I eat. I thought to myself. Sugar. Oh, how I missed you. Taylor exclaimed longingly before she took a sip of her strawberry milkshake. As she brought the cup down, I laughed at the cream mustache on her lips, which made her confused. What? She asked without realizing it. Ha ha. You're just so cute though, you have a little something on your lips. Hold on. Taylor glanced at the back view mirror and saw her mustache. She became embarrassed immediately and said, "Give me a tissue, Chup." Before she could finish her words, I had already leaned into her face and kissed her while licking the cream off her upper lips at the same time. She widened her eyes for a bit before closing them and enjoyed the sensation before I pulled myself back to my seat. Wait, I haven't had enough, she said before putting some cream on her lips with her finger on purpose this time. I laughed and gave her a tissue this time, which made her annoyed. She placed her milkshake on the cup holder and leaned towards me. What? I asked in confusion. Nothing. Just saying thanks. I haven't had a date like this in a while and certainly none was even close to this, she said with a smile on her face before giving me an innocent kiss on the cheeks.
Your words are sweet, but why are your hands so naughty? I asked with raised brows as she had slipped her right hand underneath my pants. But then, she brought it back out and said, "Wait, I forgot about this." She then gave her palm a seductive lick to use her saliva as a lubricant before slipping her hand back into my trouser pants and whipping my little cobra out. I tried to touch her, but she was flabbergasted and pulled her body back quickly and slapped my hand with her left hand, which made me confused as she was still jerking me off with her other hand. I can't dirty this dress. It's custom made. Jessica would kill me. Oh. Should I help you take it off? No. She tied up the corset herself. And she made me vow to go back to her to remove it. Eating something while wearing it was already making me anxious enough. The production crew took 2 weeks just to create her gown for the show, while mine was basically a modified classic suit that could finish production in just a few hours. Wait. Then you know it's incredibly dangerous if you continue. I tried to stop her, but that made her even more turned on and kissed my neck before nibbling my ears. Don't worry. I will make sure none of it drips into my clothes. After about an hour, we finally arrived at the doctor's place. The slightly obese male doctor with a bald head and a pink shirt waved at us from afar with a smile on his face as we got out of the car. Dr. Martin hugged Taylor, the kid he had been treating for a long while now, and said, "I missed you, Tay. You have grown up so much." "I missed you too, Dr. Martin." "Oh Tay, you have a little something on your lip. Something white and creamy from the looks of it," the doctor said obliviously. Taylor was startled and she traced the liquid with her finger before saying, "Oh. This is just a milkshake cream. See?" She then licked the cream seductively as she shot me a glance, making my entire body shudder at her boldness. "Jessica is upstairs, waiting for you. And Taylor, your father heard about your injury," Dr. Martin said with a sad smile on her face. Taylor was instantly flabbergasted and she said hurriedly, "What did he say?" "He's sending you a plane to fly you back home. I told him that I would see to it though," Dr. Martin replied. Taylor glanced at me with shaky eyes before saying, "Wait. I promised Ed to be at the concert. If you don't fly to Texas tonight, you have to go back to your agency. I'm just afraid that they will call another doctor there. You know how they can't refuse your father. So going there is the safest bet for you if you want to get some rest," Dr. Martin said while patting Taylor's shoulder. He had already guessed she was faking her injuries in order to take some time off work, which she had done so many times before. I was saddened by the sudden news, but I kept smiling as I turned to her and said, "Don't worry. Maybe you can convince your dad to let you come to the show. Impossible. Dad only likes country music," Taylor retorted subconsciously. Then, she realized what she had said and turned to look at my face. "No. Ed. I didn't mean I know. I'm not offended. But, if you really want to come, then just tell your dad. I will sing a country song at the venue if he decides to come." I thought she would be the one most excited by that, but the doctor grabbed me by the shoulder and said with glittering eyes, "Really? Your father-in-law will be glad to hear that. Before he could finish, Taylor elbowed him on the ribs, hard. She smiled eerily at me and said, "You didn't see that?" "Understood, ma'am." After picking up my bags and separating with Taylor, I returned to my house with Harvey driving me on her black Audi R8, which she refused to let me drive no matter how many times I pestered her. "I'll think about it when you get your license. For now, there is nothing you could say to change my mind." Then, what if I tattle to Donna? She practically kicked me out of the car after we arrived at my place. When I opened the door to my still-in-construction house, I was suddenly hugged by a hot Latina and was forced by numerous kisses on the cheeks like I was a kid again while she said, Mi adorable Principito. I missed you so much. Aunt Camila. I missed you too. Come see your new room. I don't want you to stay in this whorehouse much longer," Aunt Camila said before almost dragging me away. I stopped her and nodded while saying, "I know it's a whore's house,
that's why I'm ripping everything apart. Not your mom. That whore.
She said as she pointed at my exasperated dad who just came out of the kitchen.
He sighed and said, I told you. I didn't do anything to Sal. Liar. Aunt Camila accused him. Whoa. What's the story here exactly? I asked as I stood between the two of them. Dad, Sal came here? Did you bang her? X2. What? Dad is single, right?
I asked playfully, making both of them flabbergasted.
Ed.
She's drunk when she stopped by. Dad tried to explain, but I already knew that he didn't do anything with that one sentence. He was the type to never take advantage of drunk girls after all. Almost all positive reviews about the ship rental business was about him, so that says something about his integrity. Then I need to tell her to be sober when she comes next time. Otherwise Dad will never get that piece. I muttered to myself aloud, which in turn shocked the two people hearing it.
Ed. See Ted. This is all your influence.
My aunt accused my dad once again, which made me chuckle at their silly fight.
Chapter 125, Sexy New Neighbors. Edward POV. My aunt brought me to her rental house after scolding my dad for a while.
There is a room with a bed, and a room with a pull-out couch.
Which one do you want? She asked after we entered the new home.
My dad wouldn't be joining us as his room was already finished with the construction. He didn't have a lot of change in the room after all. In order to protect my asset, throat, from the dusty house, he agreed with my aunt's suggestion to let me stay with her until the construction is finished.
Can I take a look first?
I asked her, although I had inwardly decided to sleep in the room with the pull-out bed. I couldn't inconvenience her after all. It was her house. But knowing her personality, she would badger me a lot if she found out that I had that kind of thoughts.
Okay. I will heat up your dinner. I made ajiaco.
She said with a smile as she put her arms around my neck. Ajiaco is basically a Cubanese chicken soup, and she served it with a side of rice and various dishes. It was apparent that she wanted to rectify my impression on her cooking skill after almost killing my dad and I with her fiery food before. Then, she said whisperingly, the landlord gave me a giant bed.
I'm a bit afraid of sleeping on it. It's too much for me alone. So take that if you want.
The bed creeps me out. I chuckled and said, or, I can accompany you there. She pinched my cheeks and said, don't flirt with your aunt. I laughed at her and went to see the bed she was telling me about as I thought she was joking. But she wasn't. It was a Wyoming-size bed. If I start on one side, I could roll on it 10 times before falling over on the other.
Wyoming-size bed.
The bed alone took over 3/4 of the entire room, and the reason the landlord left the thing there was because it would take too much work for it to be transported to his new home.
No air conditioner. Only a ceiling fan. She will suffer in summer.
I muttered as I looked around the room. While I was checking how many pillows she had on the bed, which was 20, something else attracted my attention. I went to the open window and looked outside, where I saw a fluttering curtain coming from the neighbor's house.
Desire don't close her window at night?
That is quite dangerous. I muttered as I tried to look inside the dim room. My eyes widened as I saw a figure of a woman sprawling on her bed, with her buttocks raised up, and her right hand holding a massager, totally nude. I was shocked, but my lust got the better of me, as I continued to try and peek through the fluttering curtain which obstructed my view.
Come on, curtain. Come on, curtain.
I chanted as I almost sat on the windowsill, trying to get a clearer view. Then, my prayers were answered as a strong gust of wind blew, making the entire curtain lifted up.
I unknowingly smiled as I got a crystal clear view of the entire thing.
Desiree also noticed the wind, and her eyes widened as she looked through the window. But then, the wind suddenly stopped blowing. I quickly jumped off the windowsill and closed the window before walking casually to the next room.
I wonder if she noticed it was me.
I muttered to myself, feeling no guilt at all about what I had done.
By the way, that woman is pent up. If there's no one to hold her, then don't blame me for stepping up. Ed. What are you mumbling about?
Aunt Camila shouted from downstairs, wearing an apron, and was looking at me weirdly.
No, nothing. I just think the bed is too big.
I held the railings and replied to her while covering my crotch area behind the piece of wood.
Isn't it? It's creepy.
I don't need a bed that big.
You take that one,
she said, pretending to shudder as she hugged her body.
No.
I shouted back while laughing at her antics before going to check the other room. The next room was a lot smaller, and there was only a green pull-out couch in it. There wasn't a desk or anything else. I tried pulling the bed from the pull-out couch, and it took me a lot of effort to do it as the couch was an old one. It creaked as I sat on it, and I knew at that moment I didn't want to sleep in this room.
I rubbed my chin as I fell into a dilemma. Should I really convince Camila to sleep on the same bed together? I muttered.
Suddenly, I heard the sound of something hitting the bedroom window. What the dash, I turned to the source, and at the same time, I saw a tiny red, rubbery palm stuck to the glass.
Ah!
I screamed as I got startled, but then I stopped midway as I realized it was the stretchy palm toy that kids usually used. I walked to the window and opened it, only to find Abby excitedly waving at me from 4 meters away. Compared to the window to Desiree's room where I had to squint to see inside, the distance between Abby and mine's window was extremely close, and the houses were only parted by a hedge.
I knew you're going to pick this room,
she said excitedly while spinning the stretchy palm. She wore a low-cut, white tank top and only her underpants, her hair untied, and she got a moisture mask on her face, making me almost startled for the second time.
Seeing your face, I might have just bunked together with my aunt, I replied teasingly. That's gross. Isn't that like incest or something? Well, incest is wincest. Maybe in Alabama.
We laughed together before she tried to convince me, sleep here.
We're going to be so close. We can talk all night. That's what I'm worried about. I want to do some work while I'm here, I replied.
Work.
That's all you know. Abby scoffed mockingly. What about my prom invitation? You're working on that yet? Or did you spend so much time with the princess that you forgot about it? She asked sarcastically. Ah, so you saw her.
I scratched my cheek as I avoided her eyes. She smacked the windowsill in excitement and said angrily, everyone saw it. Then, she screamed silently as her hand was in pain because of her impulsive action.
Well, I just need to figure out a few things. Wait, Abby, my aunt is calling me downstairs for dinner dash. You didn't eat yet? It's almost 10 p.m. Go eat now.
She hurriedly chased me away before saying, when you come back, we're going to play WoW by the window.
We have no Wi-Fi here. It's going to be set up tomorrow, I replied. You can use ours.
I'm sure it's in range,
Abby replied casually. Yeah, but the ping, I mumbled whisperingly.
I regretted telling her that I know how to play the game before this. However, it was an enjoyable night for me as I spent some time with Abby.
It wasn't anything sexual, but a nice friend-type hangout. Then, I wonder why the uncomfortable feeling when you hang out with an ex didn't come out this time. Was it because I had just been emptied by Taylor?
No, it wasn't that.
It was because
I know I couldn't touch her, huh?
I muttered. What was that? Abby took off one of her headphones to hear what I was saying.
Nothing, I yelled back at her. She looked at me weirdly and said, also, how the fuck are you just whip up an account, and already passed by my level in just 2 hours?
I smirked at her and said, don't be sad. Maybe it wasn't because I was just that good. You might want to consider another possibility, that you just suck.
Abby rubbed her head in frustration, messing her hair at the same time.
One more round or go to sleep? I asked. One more round, of course.
she shouted excitedly before we started a new round.
After 15 minutes. One more round. Abby shouted. After half an hour. On, one more round.
Abby said with desperation. While we were playing, we got into a whole debate about how Shrek was sexy. She took the negative point of view, while I took the positive ones.
He got a house of his own.
With his own swamp.
He bathes every day, so he's hygienic dash.
He bathes.
In a swamp. Abby retorted. Don't be prejudiced, Abby.
That's just how an ogre cleans themselves.
I replied.
Abby tilted her head in disbelief, not understanding why a conversation about a dragon morphed into Shrek.
After an hour. So, you got turned on by a man's Adam apple? I asked weirdly. Abby was flabbergasted and she asked, how the hell did you arrive at that conclusion? All I said is that Adam apple contributes to how sexy a man is. Enough about me. What about you?
Oh. Definitely a mesh pantyhose.
I replied casually. Wait. The one a stripper usually wears? Abby asked in disbelief.
Why do you think they wear it?
To get more tips. Yeah. I found that to be sexy.
You're a weird dude.
Bite me. After 2 hours. On, one more. Stop. It's almost 3 a.m.
Go to sleep.
I replied to her.
I just need one win.
Just one win.
She said in a deranged manner. I smirked and said, tomorrow.
Not today.
Go to sleep. Before I could close the curtain to the room, she shouted, wait.
What? You're going to ask me, when? She asked meekly.
I stifled a laugh and said, by Wednesday the latest. If I can't figure out a way to ask you by then, I would just do it using a cliché way.
Cliché?
You know, with the cards, reenacting the scenes from Love Actually, but. Abby shuddered as I said that and she hurriedly muttered, no.
Don't do that. Not in a million years.
See, that's why I'm trying to figure out the best proposal for you. I replied before shutting off the curtain. I could hear her groaning in agony from next door, and I smiled as I flopped on the creaky pull-out bed before activating my rest skill, and went to sleep.
Morning came quickly after you played games all night.
I need only 4 hours of sleep to be well rested. Unfortunately for Abby, she didn't have the same advantages as I do. Therefore she played hooky from school for today as she couldn't wake up on time. I was eating a small amount of cereal at the dining table before my aunt got mad and asked me to wait for her to make breakfast.
I had already made yours. I said casually.
Huh? She was confused, and then she saw some bruschetta neatly arranged on the kitchen counter.
It was made from baguette, scrambled eggs mixed with basil and tomato.
The bread was sprinkled with garlic butter and toasted in butter before I put the scrambled eggs on it. It was a simple breakfast that could be done in just 10 minutes, and I also had made some coffee for her. I'm the one who's supposed to be taking care of you though. She pouted as she skeptically took a bite of the bruschetta. Then, her eyes widened and she swooned from the taste, hurriedly picking up the plate and went to sit next to me to devour the food. Where did you get the baguette? She asked. From Phil. He went on a bread run this morning, and he called me.
I replied honestly. He's a nice guy.
Camila said without thinking. I looked at her seriously, making her stammer, what? You have no chance with Phil Dash.
I didn't mean it like that. Wait, really? She asked in a surprise.
After all, she was a gorgeous woman. It wouldn't take much effort for her if she decided to seduce someone's husband, not that she would ever want to do that.
I nodded and said, yes. He only has eyes for Claire. So give up.
I got smacked at the back of my head before my aunt asked, why don't you eat what you cooked?
I had already eaten the equivalent of one whole baguette.
The cereal is just for dessert. You'll get fat.
She joked.
I wiped my hand with a napkin and said, unfortunately, there won't be a chance for me to store some excess fat in this lifetime.
Camila snorted and said, even your dad grew a beer gut.
You have to be careful.
Well, my dad didn't have a digestive system like Captain America.
I smiled at my aunt and stopped perusing the topic before asking her about her time in Cuba until it was time for school. She dropped me off near the school door, and even kissed my forehead in a familial way to try and make me embarrassed, but instead she was the one who was blushing.
I'll pick you up. No need. I'm going back with my friend.
I interjected before she could finish.
Who? Abby?
She said with some concern in her face.
You guys could barely hang out together after the breakup. Are you sure about starting the relationship again? She won't stay here too long, you know.
I shook my head in disbelief while narrowing my eyes at my aunt.
What are you talking about? We're just hanging out as friends. Also, it's not her. Then? Who? I smirked and didn't reply to my aunt.
The bell rang at this moment, which allowed me to have an exit from the conversation.
Who ed? Who?
She shouted from afar, but I just waved at her and pointed at my ears, gesturing that I couldn't hear her.
Inside the music club room. This movie sucks. Jenna muttered. Yeah. It really does.
I interjected as I continued to teach Alex the cello from behind Jenna and the rest. Jacob held the CD case of Transformer, Revenge of the Fallen and said, I thought it would at least be high quality.
Even the CGI is horrible in this one. It's because of the writer's strike. I think. Enid added while thinking hard about the matter. I added, yup.
That is true. The WGA strike made the production being dragged on, but Michael Bay kept the release date, turning it into an underplotted, horrible, piece of shit movie.
Alex chuckled before saying, all Transformers movies are bad. Not just this one. Boo!
The males in the club booed her after hearing that. Of course, there were only 2 Transformers movies at this time, but the first movie and the second one were incomparable.
Okay, stop. Which movie should we watch next?
Elsa asked as she held 2 Blu-ray CD cases in her hands.
The Breakfast Club or Dead Poets Society?
Ha! I exclaimed as I saw the choices.
What? Enid turned to me and asked curiously. Nothing.
It's just, I heard about this movie before, but I had never made the effort to watch it.
In this life, and in the previous ones. Well, we can do it now.
Elsa said, but we were then distracted by the sounds of the door opening. Abraham quickly covered the TV in case it was a teacher, but it was only Phineas and his sister, the 11-year-old Billy.
Hey guys! Phineas greeted excitedly. BOX5. What did I do?
He was bewildered from the response. I stood up and walked to him before saying, Ha!
It's nothing. We just thought you were a teacher. Hi. I'm Edward.
I shook hands with a blushing Billy. Jenna and Alex saw her reaction, and rolled their eyes as they realized she was a fan too.
How old are you now? I asked. 11. I'm going to middle school after summer.
She replied while brushing her hair behind her ears.
11, don't start watching porn . What the hell are you even saying?
Alex shouted from afar before I could finish my words.
Billy widened her eyes in shock and looked at me in disbelief. What? She muttered. Nothing. I'm just saying. Watching porn will destroy your perspective on love. So don't do it.
I muttered under the puzzled gaze of everyone inside the room.
Jacob asked, what the hell are you even talking about, man? Billy nudged her brother and scolded him, did you tell him? How could you? I did it one time. I didn't.
Phineas exclaimed, feeling that he had been done unjust.
Billy saw the TV that Abraham uncovered, and sighed, you guys were watching movies during school hours? Well, it's not like the teacher is checking up on us. Abraham said with a smirk. Hey, what is this? Requiem for a Dream? The actress looks like Mrs. Henderson. Enid said cheerily, not minding my topic of conversation with Billy at all. I widened my eyes and went to snatch the movie from her immediately. Hell no. We ain't watching this. Not ever. What, why? I raised the DVD up as Enid tried to snatch it back.
I also used one hand to stop her from getting near me as I hid the DVD inside my shirt.
Just trust me. Otherwise, you will have nightmares about ass to ass.
I shuddered as I remember the time my caregiver in the orphanage forced us to watch the movie before as a campaign against drug use. I talked to Billy while the others were watching a B-movie, and discussed with her about the skills she has for the band. She also sang the cover of my song, Grenade, with her guitar, blushing the entire time as I watched her with immense interest.
Aight. Tomorrow. Bring some blankets and pillows.
We're going to build a fort here in this classroom, Abraham said excitedly.
Ooh. And pajamas too. Isn't that a little childish? Alex rebuked him. We are all still children, mistress,
Abraham said, earning a disgusted look from Alex and all the girls inside the room. We practiced for a few hours, and ended today's session by watching the Breakfast Club movie. It was a high school movie set in 1985, where a group of misfits had to undergo detention together, and it turned into a heart-to-heart conversation between them, and brought them together as unlikely friends. My complaint, however, was the ending.
So, Bender was being an ass the entire time to her, borderline on sexual harassment, and Claire still falls for him? Is it because he has a sob story, or is the woman in this world just irrational? Phineas asked in disbelief. I know, right?
And Allison, which I thought of as Enid, who had fallen to the dark side.
Why me? Enid interjected.
I continued, lost what made her unique, and then her character was thrown into the generic weird kid who was actually a pretty girl trope.
She was cute even before. Aw, thank you, Enid said, touched. He's talking about Allison. Not you, Alex added frustratingly. And Brian, contemplating suicide from academic pressure, was brushed off like a joke.
Claire even manipulated him to write the homework the teacher gave them, only he alone. To be fair, he wrote a scathing letter to the teacher. Jacob tried to clarify, but Alex ignored him.
Fucking whore, Jenna muttered. Yeah. Claire is a whore, Alex cursed. I faked a gasp and said dramatically, Alex, she's your mother. Shut up. Alex exploded, which made the entire room laugh. But, the dancing at the end looks fun,
Jenna muttered, which silenced the laughter. I also want to let loose like that.
Well, you're going to need weed. And also an LP player, Elsa teased.
If you're talking about the retro ones, there are a lot of them in the school's basement room,
Abraham suddenly said. We all looked at him and asked, really? Yeah.
I went there with a few of my friends before to look for treasures.
But, all of them are broken though. Let's take a look. If it's minor damage, I can fix it, I said while standing up. As if.
Abraham snorted, but Jacob stood up with me.
Sure. Let's do it. Abracadabra. Do your magic, Abraham. All right.
Abraham finally agreed after seeing all the people around him getting excited to move the LP player. It took us half an hour to bring the heavy LP machine to the music club room, and another 10 minutes for Abraham to steal some music from the broadcasting club.
Are you sure you can fix it? Phineas asked concernedly as he watched me opening up the interior of the machine. I can.
But it won't work for long.
The machine is too old for that, I replied.
After fiddling with the wires for a while, the LP player could finally produce a sound again after 25 years. However, as we put the LP record in it, suddenly the door of the music club room was pushed open.
All of the kids froze, except for me.
Mrs. Herderson was standing at the door, scrutinizing each and every one of the kids, which made them feel as if they were being stared at by a predator.
Mrs. Henderson, did you come by to check up on us?
Unfortunately, we had already finished with our practice, I said casually as I walked toward the teacher.
Why is the LP player out of the storage area, Edward? She asked in a cold tone. Hey, you remember to call me Edward. Good for you, I said jokingly before adding, we just need to hear some music examples.
It's hard to find classical plus mainstream music fusion.
We had to go back a few decades. Right, guys? I turned to my friends while winking at them. They noticed the hint and hurriedly said, right.
The bell that symbolized the end of the school day rang at this moment, which made all of us feel relieved. Mrs. Henderson just raised one of her eyebrows while listening to my explanation, but she didn't feel the need to interrogate us more, so she just turned a blind eye on this slight today.
Ed, who's picking you up? You want a ride?
Jacob asked from inside his mother's car after he saw me standing at the curb in front of the school.
Nah. My ride is just running a bit late. Wait. Here they are,
I said as I looked at the tattered red Jeep coming towards my direction. It brakes dangerously close to Mrs. Green's car, which almost caused her to have a heart attack.
Hey, Edward.
Penny got out of the car and ran towards me before giving me a hug.
Hey, Penny. Long time no see, I replied.
Leonard and Sheldon also get out of the car while bickering with one another.
She almost kills us, Leonard. Nobody asked you to come. Now shush.
Hey, Edward.
Hey, Leonard. C3 pa,
I said, turning to Leonard and Sheldon.
Leonard and Penny laughed while Sheldon was confused. I don't look like a C3PO. Don't get me wrong, I'm flattered. But I just couldn't see it,
he replied robotically.
Anyway, what's up?
Leonard changed the topic after Sheldon finished.
Oh, I need your help.
Sure.
What is it?
That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.